What what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 531 of Get Paid for Your Pad. And today we are again talking about branding because it's so important. So I have an amazing guest on the podcast. I'm really excited. He is the founder of iPrac and the AES Events Group, and he'll explain in a minute what that means. His name is Craig Maughan. So welcome to the show, Chris. Excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, Jasper. It's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I've been a fan of your work for a while, so it's great to be on your show.
Awesome. I love hearing that. Yeah. Can you give us, before we dive into branding, can you give us a quick background? I know you've been in the space for a very, very long time, even before Airbnb even existed. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited to also learn from you, like what was short-term rentals like before those platforms even existed, right? I think we can learn a lot from that, but yeah, give us a quick background on your story.
Yeah. Well, I started in the space back in 2000, so 22 years ago. I came from the north of England to the south of France. I'd always been in hospitality. Prior to coming to France, I was in health clubs, private health clubs, from the service side. And before that, I was with a company called Swallow Hotels, which is now owned by Marriott. So I'll go back since I was 16. I've always been involved in hospitality and service. So it's so the short-term rentals was a great space for me to get into 22 years ago. So when I moved to France, I realized that there was a big gap in the market here in Cannes for short-term rentals because of the standard of what was being presented. It wasn't so much the it wasn't anything new, short-term rentals, when I arrived, but there was certainly a lower standard of what I was looking at, thinking this can't be the standard that we're at, as an industry. And I decided to open a company called AES Events Group, and our primary focus was to come into the space and offer a high-end corporate product, which we did. And so we started to build that like 22 years ago. And we started with a small studio, not in the best location, but that's where we started. And then we've built that brand and that business over the last 22 years. And now we are pretty much, we've got just short of 250 properties, some of them, up to the 50 million, valuation mark, penthouses, villas. And we serve some big brands that, who come to Cannes, like Google, Twitter, Spotify, Disney. So these are all companies who use our services to, when they arrive in Cannes, to rent, high-end luxury corporate accommodation. So that's where we are today with that. But later on in my journey, around 2014, was when I witnessed fraud for the first time, which was a family who booked an online property for like £15,000, arrived in Nice, got in a taxi, got to the address, didn't exist. They found our company on Google. After a few conversations, realized that they'd been frauded. And I realized at that point, our industry had a big problem where you have a lot of intentional professional operators, but there's no way of knowing who they are. So that's when I looked at it and thought, how can we build something that can not only protect the consumer so they can book with professional and trusted operators, but also allow operators to showcase that they're operated as trusted and professional. And that's what iPrac came about in 2014. So we spent 2 years building the platform. We launched in 2016, and now we have just under 14,000 members, and we're operating in 28 countries. So I sit as the CEO of iPrac and also AES Events Group, although AES Events Group, I'm a little bit less involved as in I am in iPrac, because we have an MD at AES who pretty much runs the show. But it's still my baby, AES is still my baby, 22 years ago. So it's, but I sit as CEO of both companies, and that's where I am. And I'm passionate about, trying to help people in this space, really, to understand the market, understand that it takes time to build a brand and build a company. And it's not always about OTAs. It's not always about direct bookings. It's about finding your place and then getting your brand right, and then just getting off on your own journey, really. So that's where I'm at today.
It's funny you mentioned that with the fraud. I remember when I first booked my first Airbnb in 2011. I remember
Mm,
going up to the address and I seriously was wondering, like, I wonder if someone's going to open the door or not. Like,
yeah.
I wonder if this is real.
Well, this is
And
one of
it
the
was.
this is yeah, but this is the thing. This is one of the problems that our industry has as operators. Operators don't think guests have this level of uncertainty, but they do. And this is why it's so important to understand about brand and removing the uncertainty of a potential guest. And that's this. You've just you just highlighted it there. You booked your first day at Airbnb in 2011, and you've got this, these negative emotions of like, is this going to happen? Is this going to be? And I always say to people, yeah, if you booked that, did you book that Airbnb on your own? Were you staying there by yourself?
Mm.
Yeah. So there was a level of uncertainty staying on your own, right? But imagine if you're with your wife and your 3 kids. Or imagine if you've booked that on behalf of 6 of your friends. So they're relying on you and your family's relying on you. The level of uncertainty goes even higher. So you've got to gauge what the level of uncertainty potentially is for a guest, whether it's a high-end rental, if it's like, if it's above 5,000 euros, dollars, pounds, or if it's more of if there's more people involved in the rental, like a family and children and things. So the level of uncertainty is really an issue, and that's why we have to address that. And the way to address that is within brand, but it's why a lot of the time we see Airbnb, Booking.com, and VRBO as these juggernauts of like companies who are throwing masses of amounts of bookings to thousands and thousands and thousands of operators around the world every month, every day, for one reason only. These guests don't have that level of risk or uncertainty when they're booking through these brands. So they feel more comfortable and trusted to say, you know what, if you booked a rental with 6 friends and you used Airbnb and something went wrong, you'd have something to say, wouldn't you? Well, I booked it through Airbnb. I mean, you know Airbnb, don't you? But if you say I booked it through John, who lives in New York, it's like, well, who's John in New York? I mean, who is this guy? He probably is a good guy and trusted and professional, but he doesn't have that same level of brand as Airbnb do. So so we have to address the uncertainty all of the time and accept that it's there. As operators, we have to accept that it's there, and our job is to remove it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up, because before we started recording, one thing you said to me, like you said, brand just used to be reputation, right?
Yes.
And I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, like in 2000, when people weren't really using the internet to find accommodation. It's like, how do you convince somebody? How do you build the trust for someone to stay at your place?
Well, this is what it comes down to. It comes down to doing more on the verge of trust marketing rather than product marketing, because it's easy to market a product, but people aren't they're not interested in a product until they trust the person behind the product selling it. So that's what we had to make sure that people were aware of who we were as a company, and that all started because even though we're going back to 2000. There was still good websites, very rare, but that was on the verge of good website development if you invested heavily in it. A lot of people were like on the, I don't really want to do that yet. My first impression was, let's get our shop window on point, because these people aren't going to come to our office. They're booking from another country. The only way that they're going to look at our reputation is by us telling them where to look. We have to guide them where to look. So you can guide them to articles about how you've been involved in charities. You can direct them into articles where it's how your CEO founded the company and what his values are. You have to direct the people where you want them to be. So we built this really high-end website much better than all of our competitors. And that's where we were, every time possible, we were directing people to we called it our shop window back then. You know, I mean, I know people call it websites or platforms today, but we called it our shop window. And it was like every opportunity possible, we have to get people looking at that. And then you've got to design that right with trust at the forefront. And that's what we did. So people weren't just looking at product, they were looking at trusted language, like high quality content in terms of, you know, the text on the website, the pictures. It was very intentional of where our main aim was that when somebody went onto our website, onto our shop window, we wanted within 7 seconds for them to say in their mind, we're in the right place. That means uncertainty's removed. They're looking at our website and they're going, we found where we need to be. That is the first barrier. Then you go into conversations about booking and different things, but you've already built that reputation as a trusted operator. So that's what we have to do.
Right. Right. Can you explain the difference between trust marketing and product marketing?
Yeah. Well, trust marketing is all about brand, reputation. It's all about the values of the company, what the values of the company is towards the guest. It's about you talking about your cancellation policies, talking about your health and safety policies. It's talking about the values of the company, like putting a mission statement out there, a positive mission statement, and then living by it. So if you wanted to understand where trust marketing starts, is write your mission statement of who you are as a company, where you want to go, where you are, where you want to be in 10 years, where you want to be in 20 years, how you want to service your guests at the level of, service, and then start talking about all of that. Product marketing is basically what you see a lot of today, is just people showing like photos and description of a property. Like 3-bedroom property, sea view, 10% discount, book direct. That's it. That's product marketing. Nobody's interested in that. You've on a first time visit, if you haven't had any transaction with that potential guest before, they're not going to look at product marketing as they haven't got the trust yet. So there's a massive difference between product marketing and people just talking too much about their product and not about their values as a company. And that's when people start to, it's a little bit like if you went on a first date, right? And you're sitting at a dinner table on a first date with a girl or a boy, right? And all you did was talk about you, right? Like how good you are and all of this kind of thing. But if you can flip it and start talking about the values that you have, and different, and kind of paint a picture of the type of person that you are going to be, that's where the trust comes in. So it's a little bit similar. Trust marketing is all about, talking about the brand, the reputation, the mission statement, and product is talking, it speaks for itself. And I think product marketing, trust marketing can include so many different aspects, like I said before, and like, articles around, why the founders believe trust is the pillar of their business. Like that's a trust marketing article. But you're not talking about product, you're talking about values. And most people, guests, will be drawn towards that and think, I like the values of this company. I like who they stand for. Airbnb do it very well. They're the best. In fact, at the minute, I think Airbnb are probably the best company out there who are doing trust marketing.
Right. They were always talking about their mission and what they want to, how they want to change the world and everything. I want to relate this. Back to a small Airbnb host, so somebody who just has one listing, maybe 2 or 3 listings. And I want to relate it back to what I see in some of our students groups. One thing I noticed that a lot of the students that don't join our programs, like when they think of the Airbnb listing, they focus very much on the pictures, right? And that's what everybody
Yeah.
says, like, hey, the you sell your property through the photos, which is true. But one thing that often they don't focus on is their profile and talking about
Yeah.
who they are on their profile. Oftentimes they'll have an empty profile.
Yeah.
And what I always say is, like, if I'm booking an Airbnb, I want to know who I'm booking with. I want to know if it's a company that's cool, if it's a person that's cool too. But I want to know, like, who is this company or who is this person? And if there's nothing on the profile, I don't, I don't trust it,
Yeah.
basically, and I won't book
Well,
it.
well,
Right.
this is yeah,
So
absolutely.
is that how we can kind of see it? Is like kind of like the photos is kind of like the product marketing on an Airbnb listing, and then your profile where you write about yourself and why you love
Absolutely.
hosting and who you are as a
Yeah.
person. Is that the
Yeah.
trust part?
That's it. That's exactly it. That's it. That's it. It's showing somebody who you are. You know,
Yeah.
like the photos of a property has no reflection on who's behind it.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, I
And you're
mean,
saying that's just as important, right?
yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're just thinking that you're going to put some photos I mean, there's two aspects to Airbnb. The trust factor in terms of brand is kind of, that's where Airbnb have like won the guest, you know. So they're already on Airbnb, so they've already got that trust that they're in a place that they can book, you know. So now they're looking to book. They're not like searching Airbnb thinking, can I trust them? They're already on Airbnb because they trust in the brand of Airbnb. Now they're looking at where they're going to book and who they're going to book with. And this is where your profile is crucial, and how you write that profile about, because you can certainly emotionally attract somebody to think, I really like this guy. I really like this girl. I really like this company. I don't know why, because we've never met them, but there's something about their profile photo. It's very engaging. It's very warming. They start off about talking about how trust and service is their mission, why they love hosting. Again, somebody who's just going, you know, my name's Tim, come and stay with me. Where are you going to go? So you've got to really spend some time really trying to build that profile up, because when you're not looking at it, but everybody else is, you know, like we say that about brand. When you think nobody's watching, everybody's watching. So when you're sleeping at night or, you know, whatever, somebody could be on Airbnb in a completely different country deciding whether to book your property or somebody else's. And you have no idea this is going on. So you could be losing 50, 60, 70 bookings a year just because your profile's not on point, or it hasn't been engaging enough or attractive enough for somebody just to click, yes, I'm booking with this guy or this girl or this company. So it is crucial to make sure that even on the Airbnb platform, you're still standing out as a trusted, reputable brand.
Right. And I mean, that's even more true for, if you have a direct booking website. I see a lot of direct booking websites where they have like an about us section, but then I click on it and I see some like a vague description of, very simple of like, yeah, we're a property management company, or we're John and Janet, and we're this is where we're from. And it's very rare that I actually see like really good photos or a video, or just more of an elaborate comprehensive description with what do we stand for, why do we host, what's our passion, what's our hobbies, like what are our favorite travel destinations. There's so many things that you could relate to as a guest, and I always pay attention to that, because one of the reasons I stay on Airbnb is also because I'm doing the podcast and everything. I'm always interested in the person and understanding like who is this host, right? But even for a lot of guests, I think that's the same thing, right?
Well, they missed the point. I think a lot of hosts and property managers miss the point of the fact that they still need to convert. There's competition out there. You still need to convert. There's still a saturated market to work around, so you've got to be you've got to be on point with about who you are as a person. And I mean, I always say it, you know, I mean, the level of short-term rental, the websites, the direct booking websites out there are just so below par. You know, I mean, they're not built for conversion at all. I mean, their homepage bounce rate will be anywhere between 95 and 100%. Because, you know, I mean, anybody going onto that direct booking website that has like, you know, basic pictures, a basic description that's being put on a really, you know, low-key WordPress website, it's just does not show trust and confidence and reputation that anybody's going to feel comfortable to pay directly and have any kind of peace of mind to think that everything's going to go well. So, you know, like I said before about when we built AES, we knew our shop window had to be where we were investing the money. And I see today, most hosts don't invest in they rely far too much on Airbnb or the booking platforms sending them the guest and not worrying about, you know, what they're doing as a company. And at the same time as well, somebody could book and you might get that money in. But, you know, trust can be lost at any particular time on the journey. Not somebody could book and then find out, they could have a conversation with a friend 4 days later, and that friend could turn around and go, you know, did you check out the profile? Did you know who really? Why? Oh no, because I heard of a guy in Italy, he got scammed. And really? And all of a sudden there's doubt. They've booked already, but 5 days later, doubts clicked in, and now they're cancelling. You know, so you've also got to look at your cancellation rate and understand that as a trend. I mean, are people following through with their booking? Have you got a big drop-off rate near, you know, at time of the booking? It's understanding this, because that can also be a trust factor. People just not really, you know, it's not because they've booked with you, that's all of the trust done. You can lose that trust at any particular time, all the way up to the check-in and during the rental. Because, you know, we want to keep building the trust during the rental, because that's where retention and referral comes in. So for me, I think hosts and property managers are not paying enough attention to the attention to detail that they need to do behind the scenes. Like I said, when you think nobody's watching, everybody's watching. So you've got to be, whether you've got 1 property, 5 properties, 10 properties, whether you're not interested in direct bookings, whether you're only on Airbnb, you still should have a brand. You should still have a reputation for somebody to go, okay, I trust this guy, trust this girl, trust this company.
Sure. I'm curious to know, when you started the AES events group, to what extent, like how much before, you know, I know you built the website, how much time did you spend like really dialing in the standards, the values, your mission, or was that something that kind of developed over time, or did you get really clear on that from the get-go?
No, I got clear on that. I got clear on that from the start, because I knew what was missing in the market. I mean, when I came to Cannes back in 2000, and I said, I'm going to set up a short-term rental management company, and I'm going to rent out apartments to all of the top companies around the world. And, you know, everybody just laughed at me, you know, it was like, yeah, of course you are, you know, and then it was like, yeah, but there's already loads of people doing that. How are you going to start competing with all of these other companies who are already doing it, Chris? And I just saw something completely different. And I knew that it was all about, I knew where we were going to stand in the market. I knew it was all going to be about service. It was about high product. It was all about trust, reputation, brand. And we started with that very, very, you know, within the first 3 months, we were constantly, you know, even at the start, we were saying no to properties. Like everybody was like, no, you've got to get as many properties as you can. A short-term rental business is looked at as successful the amount of more properties you've got. No, it isn't. No way. That cannot be the case. That is not the way I see it. So when you come with a property and say, I've got a really nice property, I'm like, well, let us decide whether it's suitable to our brand. And we would go and have a look at it and go, no, we can't put our guests in here. And so we were very selective, and we started getting a reputation, which is, for being very selective. And then what happened was all of the people who had a nice property were like, I want to list it with AES because they're the ones who list the nice properties. So we came with this kind of no, like quality control. It's like, no, your property doesn't suit our brand. Your property doesn't suit our brand. And our first big client was MTV, and they wanted like 40 apartments for the MIT-TV, which was like 80 people, right? And we didn't have the properties. We didn't have the properties to put them in. But what we did say was, we will go to our competitors and we will take the best properties that they've got and we will deliver them to you. And MTV were like, I love that. Yeah, we're going to use you. We don't want to go around everybody else. If that's your kind of psyche and that's your kind of like understanding of the market, you're on point with us. We just want to book with somebody that we can trust, who's just going to deliver. And we feel that when we speak to you and your company. And that's what we did. So then we started going to all of our competitors saying, send us your best 5 properties. And when they were sending them, we were saying, right, we'll take them. So we started using all of our competitors as well to build our stock, and which was quite smart back in the day, because when everybody was telling us that we didn't have a place in the market, all of a sudden we were renting our competitors' properties, and they couldn't understand how we were doing that. But it was very clear to me that it was reputation. We had a clear vision of who we were, where we wanted to be, and what level of service we were going to provide. And these big corporate clients could see that. And that was all they wanted. They're not naive to think that there's no problems are going to happen. Like that's not the issue here. What they want to know is, if a problem does happen, is this company got the reputation and psychology to want to fix it when the problem does happen? And that's what we created, and that's how it kind of started. So we did very early brand.
How did you know that there was a gap in the market in cotton that you could step into and fill up? Were you a client? Were you looking for places to stay yourself, or?
No, because what was happening was, Cannes has 7,000 hotel rooms, okay, of four-star and above. So I mean, Cannes is a pretty nice place to visit. The Croisette, there's the big Carlton, the Martinez, the Majestic Hotel. Everybody wants to stay in these hotels, right? But there's only 7,000 of these hotel rooms, okay? But let's take, for instance, the MIPIM in March, right, which is the big property festival. There's 23,000 delegates, right? So not everybody can get one of these hotel rooms that they all want, right? So the gap was, provide hotel standards, suite standard and service to these people who couldn't get into the rooms, into the hotel rooms. And there's the market. Because we went and looked at some of the properties that other agencies were renting, and they were horrendous. I mean, like still the photo of the mum and dad or the granddad on the TV, like it's like real, like, wow, really you're renting it like this, like still like clothes in the wardrobe, like, yeah, don't touch the wardrobe. Like, what? No. So the standard was really low. So our job was to find all of the top properties and deliver them to the people who were searching for the top properties. So there was a gap in the market, but there wasn't the properties, So, but that's when we started building we started investing heavily also in real estate as a company. So if we can't find the properties, we'll create them, and then we started working with investors who wanted to invest, and then we would help them buy, then we would help them renovate to the standard that they needed to, then we would add them into our portfolio, then we would give them a guaranteed rent, and we started building like that. So we got to like 100 properties within the first four years, and then we've and over the years we've built it up to just like 250.
So I understand when there's a big festival going on, there's a lot of demand, and it'll be, it's easy to fill those units. But was it easy to keep the occupancy high throughout the year?
Well, Cannes not really a destination for that, and I'll let the competition in Cannes outside of the festivals is just like, it's really, really difficult. So we decided in 2006 that we wouldn't be doing anything outside of the festivals, because we didn't want to have this race to the bottom in the price, because everybody was kind of, I can get it cheaper over there, I can get it cheaper there, I can get the same property half the price over here. But there was no negotiation in the Congress world, the festival world. So we decided that in 2006 we would become the corporate accommodation company in Cannes, the only one who only did corporate. So that was a risk, because we were probably at the time turning over around, I don't know, like maybe 400,000 euros at the time in bookings outside of the festivals. But so to drop that was quite a big risk, but it paid off, because all of a sudden all of the big brands like Google, Twitter, and Spotify and all them later down the line decided that they would rather work with a corporate focus agency. And that's who we were. We marketed the fact that we didn't do summer rentals. We marketed the fact that we didn't do weekend rentals. We were 100% 6 congresses out of the year. We are the agency who do all of the rentals for that. And that's how we did it. So it was a risk, but all of the companies now, they find it very difficult, to fill the calendar outside of the festivals. July and August is quite easy because it's a summer destination, but outside July and August and the festivals, it's a ghost town. So there's not a lot of money to be made.
Yeah. So those by just focusing on those festivals, were you still able to deliver a good ROI to your investors and enough like revenue to your property owners?
Yeah, because we left them to do their own thing outside of the congresses. So we were the agency who managed their congress rentals, and outside of the congress, we said you can do what you want.
Okay, so they would say that they would manage it outside of that. So they would probably doing Airbnb or whatever outside of those. They would just block off those times when the congress took place.
Like in January, we would basically go and invest like 3 million euros in signing up all of the owners for all of the 6 congresses and contracting them for the 6 congresses for that year, deposits, and then the structured balance payment. And outside of them, they were on their own. Yeah. But they liked that. They liked that.
Would you pay them like a fixed amount, or was it like a right? So you're basically doing arbitrage between. Yeah. Okay.
I would go I could go and look at a property, like a 3-bedroom apartment in Cannes. I could go and say to the owner, okay, look, we're going to give you 35,000 for the year, for example. And he would say, that's guaranteed. I would say, that is guaranteed. So no matter whether it's rented or not, you get 35,000. And then we would go and rent that for 70,000, for example.
Got it.
And that was our model. So it was more like a broker. We were like we would buy in our stock, and we would buy stock before we even had a client. So we were running. A lot of people used to say that I was crazy when I was doing this model, but it was the quickest way to the top, because of we weren't waiting around, and all of a sudden we had that reputation, And any top property that came on the market in Cannes went to our agency because we had that reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wanna talk a little bit more about iPrec, and I know you said you have 14,000
Just short of,
hosts,
yeah,
right?
members.
On that
Yeah.
members.
Yeah.
What can you tell us a little bit more about how iPrec can help? How is it only for people that have direct booking websites, or like what kind of services, and how do you help short-term rental hosts through that organization?
It's definitely more appropriate for members, for short-term rental property managers or owners who are interested in gaining more direct bookings. That's for sure. But it's still affordable to invest in terms of helping you build your reputation, your brand, and and trust. So what basically we are is, IPRAC stands for International Property Rental Approval Certification. That's the analog. That's the analog behind it, IPRAC. And that's exactly what it is. Basically, we actually go through, members apply, and we then go through a very robust approval process to define whether that operator is legitimate, trustworthy, professional. And once they become approved, they get their kind of IPRAC certification and logo and profile for them to market that they've been approved by a governing, like a body of the short-term rental industry of trust. So whether you're looking to get more direct bookings or not, it's still something I would say important to show a guest, because it shows that you care, and I think this is an industry of care. It's, whether you think you need it or not, guests would appreciate you having it, whether you think you need it or not. But definitely for the direct booking side of things, it is not only an accreditation, it's actually one of the most, I would say it's the best conversion tool out there, because it basically, like we were talking before, it removes all of the uncertainty, because you're booking through a trusted professional operator. Your payments are guaranteed. You get a booking certification confirmation when you register the booking. So all of a sudden, when somebody's thinking, can I book directly? Can I trust this person? That person can say, we're IPRAC approved. That takes away all of the uncertainty of whether the property is going to exist or whether it's professionally run or managed. So it's a massive tool for you to showcase credibility. And I think if you're trying to get direct bookings, credibility is the way forward. Because if nobody trusts in you, they're not going to book with you. That's just that's just not rocket science. That's just fact.
That's what we started the podcast off with. So it's cool that we're circling back to that. Can you let the audience know how they can get involved with iPrec if they're interested?
Yeah, if they go to the website, which is www.i-prac.com, and all of the information on there, we've got a resource hub where you can read articles about why it's important, about how to build brand. We've got so many articles on there to help. And all of the applications are on there, whether you're a property management company or a private owner. You just click on the link that's down to what your criteria, and off you go. It's but we've got a good team in the UK who are always on there to support anybody who's got any questions or wants to have a meeting, or to go through it, because we don't sell iPrec. It's not something we sell. We believe our members come there and believe in the product and believe that the product can help them grow their business. If you don't think iPrec can help you grow, then it doesn't matter. We don't want you anyway, but we want people who can see iPrec as a brand that can help them build more trust, more conversion, more brand awareness, more brand reputation. And that's why we've built it, to help the industry become more trusted. And I think 2023, I think the I think the buzzword will be differentiation. Professionals will be trying to differentiate themselves from, the low-key operators, and that will be the way that people are trying to get their market share. So IPRAC will help people do that.
Yeah. Is IPRAC European focused, or is it for anybody anywhere in the
No,
world?
it's global. We're in 28 countries at the minute, and I think by the middle of 2023 we'll have added another 4. Because we can't just add companies, because we have to have certain government approvals to be able to access it through our approval certification process. So it takes a while to onboard a new country, so that we can verify somebody operating in that country, because we have to verify certain documents, and documents are different in different countries. But we're global at the minute. I mean, 28 countries. We're adding another 3 in 2023. So we're just, we're growing at quite a fast rate, as people just want to concentrate more on trust.
Yeah. Are you in the US?
No, I'm based in Cannes, south of France.
No, I mean like sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it available to US hosts?
Yeah. We've got quite a lot of members in the US.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, right the way through. Yeah. So it's actually growing in the US, I think, because even in the US, there's nothing really that stands out as an accreditation of trust that offers the payment protection and, like a global brand aware, So I think, we're starting to see the marketing factor that we've done in the US pay off, due to the fact that people just see the benefit in improving trust. People are understanding it. It's taken a while, I must admit. I started talking about trust like 7 years ago in the short-term rental space, and people used to just think, "What are you talking about, man, Chris?" It's like, nobody cares. But I think now more platforms are getting built around trust. More people are talking about brand reputation. More people are talking about, is Airbnb the future for most people, because of, it's getting difficult to navigate. Is commissions going to go up? Is licensing going to come in? Will we survive Airbnb? Will it be? Nobody knows. So I think if you want to be in the short-term rental space, I think direct bookings is going to be such a huge part of it. And I don't think you'll get any direct bookings if you don't showcase trust.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, in 2015 or before that, you could still get away with it. You just throw something in Airbnb and it's getting booked. Like those times have definitely changed.
Well, the standard of properties are just so much higher, and and expectation has changed. You know what I mean? Like you now can compare. You've probably stayed in a lot of Airbnbs, right? So you can probably go in and compare subconsciously whether this stands up to being a good property, well managed or not. And you could probably walk in and go, "Oh my God, this is horrendous," or "No, this is good. This is good standard." So guest expectation is rising all of the time, and if you're not meeting that expectation, you're slowly gonna be getting like pushed down the ladder, So there'll be a point where people will just walk away from the space and go, "I can't compete anymore, and I'm not prepared to invest more time and money to compete," which I think is a good thing, because that will get the market less saturated and professionals will be running the market, will be the majority operators.
Yeah. Awesome, Chris. Well, I appreciate your time. This has been a very interesting chat. So thank you so much for being on the show. Before we wrap up, anything else you want to share with the audience?
Yes, I did promise Mark that this is the book the blueprint one, and I think this is a book that's coming out in December, and I've actually wrote the first chapter, which is all about trust. So if you want to get a little bit of insight into why trust is important, whether you're direct booking or not, then the first chapter, and that's worth a listen, worth a read.
Awesome. I'll definitely read it.
Yeah. It's a good one. It actually covers. I'll give you a little insight into it. We actually hint on a conversation we had last week about Uber and how Uber changed an existing industry, by removing uncertainty.
Awesome,
So
Chris.
that's a little bit of a It's a little bit of
I'm excited to read it.
Yeah. It's worth a read. It's good. And there's also 12 other great people in the industry have also wrote their chapters. So it's a good it's a good book for the industry, I believe.
And a lot of the other people who have contributed to the book have also been on the podcast, and like it's obviously Mark is great, good friend of ours.
Yeah, he's good.
We love Mark.
Does some great work. He does some great work for the industry, and I think that's where a lot of people need that support and help. Somebody who can see the trends, and help people guide them through it. So no, he deserves a medal for what he does, Mark. Yeah, he does.
Shout out to Mark. That's how we end this podcast.
Big shout out to Mark from Boostly.
Thank you so much,
all right,
Chris.
Thanks, Jasper.
This was awesome. And to the audience, hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you enjoyed the last couple episodes. We're talking a lot of brand, and I agree with Chris. I think it's going to be extremely important going forward in the next 3 to 5 years for us to be successful as a short-term rental host, whether you're on Airbnb or doing direct bookings on other platforms. I think it has to be our focus to be successful. So important topic. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back on Friday. So have a great week.